Michael, let's talk about the Queen and U.S. presidents. I've got to say, though, just a side note, it's very funny. All morning we've been saying every U.S. president except Lyndon Johnson, and I can't help but think of a story that Roy Jenkins told of Foreign Secretary Rab Butler coming to Washington and LBJ holding dollars over his head, thinking that he was humiliating him. And Roy Jenkins said that Rab Butler spent the rest of his life retelling the story, chortling, laughing, and mocking LBJ. Not a lot of love lost between Britain and LBJ. But for the other presidents, an extraordinary legacy starting with Truman. And we lost his audio. All right. It was a good lead-up.
Welcome back to
David Miliband. A special relationship. Talk about the Queen.
She did the impossible. She united a nation that has been fractious and divided and argumentative over 70 years. Right across the UK, she managed to ensure that she legitimised political division by symbolising national unity. And the fact that you've got these tributes from around the world, I think, speaks to the fact that some of the words you've been using this morning, grace, dignity, stoicism, determination, respect, are really speaking to someone who didn't just encompass a British era. She spoke about something important globally, and I had the very great privilege, whenever she went abroad, the Foreign Secretary at the time goes with her, the Foreign Secretary gets to go and brief her about foreign affairs. Of course, most of the time, she knew more than we did, because she'd been there for so long, she'd met all the people, she'd met the parents of the generation of leaders.
Right,
and we have Michael now.
We have Michael. I am curious, though. Tell us about her relationship from a very conservative, with a small C background, very conservative background. I remember that line from the Queen, where Tony Blair's wife says, "You Labour prime ministers fall in love." But I also remember reading about her special relationship and love for Harold Wilson.
Yeah, Harold Wilson was a Labour Prime Minister in the 1960s. Look, I think you've got to look at her formative years, the 1930s, as she grew up. She learnt about the rise of fascism. And she learned how, in 1940, she gave that extraordinary broadcast as a tiny young girl, 14 years old. She spoke to the children of Britain at the time. At the time, of course, there was a very controversial US ambassador to the UK, John Kennedy's father, who courted controversy in the way that he saw the politics of the 1930s. She then, in the 1940s and 50s, remember, she became Queen by accident, because it was her uncle's line. Then, after the 1930s and the entanglement with Mrs. Simpson, the line moved over to her. So she learnt about change and about challenge from a very early age. And that's why, of course, it's an institution defined for 1,000 years by continuity, but also having to go with change.
David, I want to ask you a basic question, but I think an important one. I was talking to my children about the Queen last night, and they have great admiration for her, and we were talking about her extraordinary life, but they were trying to sort out, as American kids, what does she do? Why is she so significant? If she doesn't make the laws and set the policy, we think of our own president here. So can you sort of articulate for the audience why she is such a significant figure, not just in the UK, of course, but around the world?
It's a great point that the very limit of her powers is what gave her the power to unite the nation. She never had to put up taxes. She never had to deal with inflation. She never had to make the toughest calls, but she was always there to advise. And one of the things about her is that she really did her homework. Every night she did the famous red box. She would work through her papers. She took her responsibilities very seriously. And of course, her greatest responsibility was not to dabble in politics. And so she didn't take sides between left and right. She allowed the democratic process to go forward. And in that sense, she really defined what a constitutional monarchy should be for the modern age. Some people say she reinvented the idea of a monarchy. She actually defined and invented what a constitutional monarch could be.
So, Michael Beschloss, I believe we have you back. Talk about Queen Elizabeth's relationship with the United States and with every president going back to Harry Truman.
Happy to do it. Morning, Mika and Joe. I'm sorry again to lose my sound. I loved your speech, about your story about Rab Butler and LBJ so much. As you could see, I've been speechless for the last few minutes, but I've now recovered. She had these amazing relationships with these presidents. She came here as a princess, 1951, talked to Harry Truman, as you have written, Joe, one of the commanding presidents in American history, and held her own. She was in her mid-20s. And the amazing thing is that this is someone who, and actually this is reflected in the series The Crown, which is not always accurate, but was in this case, she didn't have an elaborate education. She was not prepared for this job. She wasn't in the line of succession until her uncle abdicated in 1936. And then she becomes queen decades earlier than she expected at this extremely young age. And she is dealing with her prime minister. She's dealing with Winston Churchill and Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower. And, you know, I look at all the documents from the American side, since a lot of the British ones, and particularly her own diaries and private papers, will not be open for a very long time. And all these very tough politicians who are president of the United States say, you know, I learned so much from her. She told me about what Eleanor Roosevelt told her during World War II, and she remembered England's economic troubles after the war. So this was someone who dealt with them not only as an equal, but in some cases a superior. Can I also alleviate the mystery of why
just one
Okay.
moment. We're looking at images now
Yes.
of King Charles III returning to Buckingham Palace. I've got to ask David, I'm sorry, just how strange. Even as Americans, he's Prince Charles. He's forever the prince in waiting. We are now looking
Look at the king.
at the king.
It's a 73-year job training that he's been through of a quite remarkable kind. And she obviously always wanted there to be not an iota, not a moment of indecision after her passing. And the fact that he is now greeting people, talking to people, I think speaks to that training that he's had.
I want to bring in Katty Kay to this conversation, and David was talking about how Queen Elizabeth handled change from such an early age. And I wonder what this change feels like to you, Katty. King Charles, what's it like to envision this future, given the 70-year legacy of Queen Elizabeth?
I'm looking at these pictures, and a bit like you, I'm sort of kind of gobsmacked. I mean, I'm trying to think, has he changed? You know, has he emerged from that car? This is the first time we've seen him as king. And is there a different aura about him? Is there something we haven't seen before? And actually, no, he just looks like Charles. But, you know, there he is going out and greeting the crowds. This is his very first encounter with the British public as king. This is a big moment for him. And Charles, the challenge for Charles now, because he comes to the throne at the age of 76, he brings with him, of course, a lifetime of well-known opinions and statements that he has made in public, and she had none of that. She came to the throne as a young woman who was a blank slate. She hadn't expressed opinions about potentially controversial issues, which he has. And he will now have to wrestle with how much of the causes he holds dear and has spoken about openly and publicly and championed his whole life. What happens now to those statements and those causes, and how does he balance being king? And he said very publicly, rather undiplomatically in the past, perhaps, I'm not stupid, I know it's different. And it will be. And this is the first ever, you know, the first glimpse we get of him in this different role. And how will he carry himself, and how will he handle all of those causes? Just one thing, David Miliband, of course, is a consummate diplomat, and I'm still chuckling at his lovely line about the entanglement with Mrs. Simpson, and just glossing over a rather large rift in the British monarchy.